How to destroy fear forever. What if the ancient Stoics held the secret to dissolving your deepest fears? Imagine breaking free from the grip of anxiety with timeless wisdom forged over 2,000 years ago. This isn't just philosophy, it's a manual for mastering fear, building inner strength, and living with clarity. What if today was the day you stopped letting fear run your life? Not just suppressing it, not pretending to be strong, but actually destroying it at the root. Imagine living without needing fear's permission. You say what you mean, do what you believe in, chase what you truly want. No more waiting to feel ready. No more backing down because things are uncertain. Who would you become if you weren't held back by that voice in your head whispering, "Be careful, don't try, don't dream too big"? This video isn't just another feel-good pep talk. You're going to learn how to break fear down with a philosophy that's over 2,000 years old, Stoicism. It's not about lofty ideas. It's about daily training, mastering your emotions, disciplining your mind, and standing tall in the chaos. This is how warriors, emperors, and everyday people faced real pain and kept going. If you're ready to take back the wheel, don't look away. Because the battle against fear begins within you, and it starts right now. Number 1. The nature and role of fear. Fear doesn't mean you're weak or lacking courage, it means you're alive. Fear is your body's natural alarm system, a product of millions of years of evolution designed to keep you from going extinct. When your ancestors came face to face with a saber-toothed tiger, the ones who felt fear and ran were usually the ones who survived. The ones who didn't, usually the last. That's why fear is wired deep into your nervous system. It's part of your survival instinct. When you sense danger, whether it's a wild animal in the forest or an email from your boss, your amygdala lights up. It's the brain's ancient radar system built to detect threats. Once triggered, it alerts the hypothalamus, which kicks off a biological chain reaction. Adrenaline surges through your bloodstream. Your heart races, your muscles tense, your breathing quickens. That's why your chest pounds before a big conversation, even when there's no tiger in sight. Fear can't tell the difference between a life or death threat and a high-stakes social moment. To your brain, they're both dangerous. Fear isn't your enemy. It's your sentry. It warns. It protects. It's just doing the job it was built to do back when survival meant escaping claws and fangs. But in the modern world where threats look more like criticism, failure, or rejection, this ancient system can misfire. Your brain reacts to a missed email like your ancestors reacted to lion tracks in the grass. And that's the key. Fear isn't the problem. If you weren't afraid of heights, you might step off a cliff. If you weren't afraid of fire, you might walk into flames. Fear keeps you alive, but only if it plays the right role to alert, not to take control. When fear grabs the wheel, when it doesn't whisper but screams, when it doesn't warn but commands, you're no longer living. You're just surviving. Here's the wild part. Brain scans show that imagining a threat triggers nearly the same response as facing a real one. Just thinking about being humiliated in front of a crowd can activate your fight-or-flight system. You don't need an actual event to feel fear, just a thought, a scenario, a mental what-if, and your body reacts as if it's all happening now. But it gets deeper. When fear takes over, your brain doesn't just react, it reprioritizes. Blood flow shifts away from your prefrontal cortex, the part that handles reasoning, decision-making, and problem-solving, and rushes to your muscles, readying you to run. You stop thinking clearly. You become impulsive, reactive, driven by emotion. That's why fear leads to bad decisions. You're not thinking, you're surviving. So if fear itself isn't the enemy, but our blind reaction to it is, then here's what matters. Feeling fear doesn't mean you're in danger. It means something important is in front of you. The shaking in your hands isn't a sign of weakness. It's a signal that you're standing at the edge of something that could change your life. But this is where fear becomes most dangerous. Not in action, but in delay. When you sit still. When you say, maybe later. When you postpone a decision you know is right just because you feel uncertain, anxious, or unready. That's when fear stops warning and starts leading. Not because it's stronger than you, because you didn't notice it took your place. So ask yourself, are you truly in danger or just listening to an ancient reflex? Are you actually safe or trapped by your own imagination? Not everyone who feels fear is weak, but anyone who lets fear decide for them is missing the biggest part of life: growth. The danger isn't that you're afraid. It's that you think fear knows the way. Because when you follow it long enough, you forget what it feels like to choose your own direction. In the next part, we'll take a closer look at one of the most common mistakes people make: mistaking the voice of fear for the voice of reason. Number 2. The trap. When you mistake fear for truth, imagine someone always walking beside you, whispering in your ear every time you're about to do something important. Don't say that. They'll think you're stupid. Don't try. You're not good enough. Sit still. Don't mess it up. If that voice came from another person, you'd cut them off immediately. But because it comes from inside your head, you listen, you believe it, you obey, and you call it being realistic. It's not. That's fear disguised as logic. And the most dangerous part, you don't even realize it's controlling you. We don't fall because of fear. We fall because we hand fear the steering wheel. We don't lose our dreams because someone stops us. We lose them because when fear speaks, we turn away, we hold back. Stay safe, don't start. Not because we can't, but because a voice inside whispers, "Careful, what if you fail? Who do you think you are?" The tragic thing is fear doesn't need to shout. It just needs your nod. Epictetus once said, "It is not things themselves that disturb us, but our opinions about them." Fear isn't in the situation, it's in the story we tell about it. The problem isn't the presentation, the rejection, or the risky opportunity. The problem is that we imagine disaster and then act like it's already happened. Have you ever turned down an opportunity because you didn't feel ready? That wasn't true. That was an assumption. And when assumptions repeat, they become reality. Let me tell you a story. You might see yourself in it. James, a 34-year-old engineer in London, always dreamed of doing creative work, design, writing, building things that mattered to him. But every time a chance came up, he backed off. "I'm not the creative type. I've come too far to turn around." But the truth, he was scared. Scared of being bad at it, scared of being laughed at, scared of starting over. Then one day, his company made layoffs. Suddenly, the thing he'd avoided, change, came for him. So he wrote. It wasn't great. It wasn't polished, but it was honest. 3 months later, he landed his first small contract. 6 months later, he was living off his creative work. When people asked him what changed, he said, "I got laid off." So, for the first time in my life, fear didn't get to decide. Fear never disappears. It gets replaced by a bigger purpose, by repeated action, by a reason the voice can't argue with. Here's the hard truth. Safety is a cocoon. Warm but tight, soft but numbing. The more you chase safety, the more you trade away growth. Every time you avoid instead of engaging, your capacity to adapt, to innovate, to bounce back shrinks. And when you finally need it, it's not there. So ask yourself, if tomorrow forced you to change, would you be ready or would you break? Fear isn't a dictator, it's an employee. The problem is you've made it CEO. From now on, let fear take a seat in the audience. It doesn't need to vanish. It just needs to shut up. If something in this message stirred something in you, a dream you paused, a chance you passed on, leave a comment. Write down what you've been wanting to do, but fear's been holding you back. Naming it is the first step toward taking back control. And if you want to keep building a mind that's grounded, strong, and fearless, hit subscribe, not for entertainment, but as a daily reminder, you don't take orders from fear anymore. Number 3, courage is not the absence of fear. Courage isn't the absence of fear. Courage is when your hands are still shaking, your thoughts still racing, your heart still pounding, but you take the next step anyway. One of the most damaging beliefs we hold is that we need to conquer fear before we act. We wait for our pulse to slow, our palms to dry, our mind to quiet. We think once I feel ready, then I'll move. But if that's what you're waiting for, you might wait your whole life. Have you ever seen a new father cradle his firstborn with trembling hands? He's terrified of dropping the baby, of doing it wrong, and yet he holds the child close. Or the young woman outside the interview room, heart hammering like a drum, still taking a deep breath and walking in. Or the teenager stepping onto a stage for the first time, voice shaky, knees unsteady, still speaking up. These people aren't fearless. They simply decided not to let fear make the call. Seneca once said, "Sometimes even to live is an act of courage." Every day you get out of bed, walk into uncertainty, risk loss, failure, heartbreak, and still try, still love, still show up. That's courage. So why do we think we need to feel fearless to be brave? Here's the irony. Fear often shows up when something matters most. It's not a wall, it's a signpost, and the closer you get, the louder it gets. But fear doesn't get to steer, only you do. The people we call heroes aren't fearless. They simply chose to act while their hearts were still shaking. Nelson Mandela said, "I learned that courage was not the absence of fear, but the triumph over it." Long before Mandela, the Bible already wrote, "Be strong and courageous. Do not be afraid, for the Lord your God goes with you." Courage is a choice, a quiet declaration. I will not let emotion dictate my direction. Think about that one important phone call you almost didn't make. You stared at the screen. Your finger froze. Your tongue went dry. Your brain spun worst-case scenarios. But eventually, you hit the dial. You remember that moment. That was courage. You don't need a battlefield to prove your bravery. Sometimes it's just telling the truth in a hard conversation. Sometimes it's staying when everything in you says run. Stop waiting to feel ready. Try this instead. Count 2, 3 and go. 3 seconds is just enough to stop overthinking, but short enough to stay in control. Like hitting launch before doubt can talk you down. And here's the most powerful truth. You don't need to get rid of fear to act. Action weakens fear. Every time you move forward while afraid, fear shrinks a little. Not because it disappears, but because you grow bigger than it. And if you can do it once, you can do it 1,000 times. That's how fearless people are made. Not by eliminating fear, but by showing up with it again and again until their body learns that fear isn't a stop sign. It's a starting line. So next time fear shows up, don't try to silence it. Let it ride with you. Just don't hand it the map. Don't let it drive. Take one small step. That's how you redefine who you are. And when you learn to walk alongside fear, it's no longer enough to simply pass through it. You begin to chase it. Because sometimes the place you fear the most holds the treasure you've been looking for. Number 4, the fear hunting method. Fear doesn't go away just because you think about it. You can spend hours analyzing, reasoning, and reassuring yourself. But until you take action, fear stays put. Arms crossed, smiling, whispering, "I still own you." What weakens fear isn't knowledge, it's contact. Not understanding, but exposure. Like the way cold water stops feeling terrifying after you jump in. Not because it got warmer, but because you stopped blowing it up in your head. One of the Stoics' most powerful tools was repeated exposure to what we avoid. No running, no postponing, no negotiating. Just facing it bit by bit, step by step until the mind learns to handle what once triggered panic. They called it practice, we call it fear hunting. And it works. Here's a story that makes it real. Marcus was a quiet software engineer with a deep fear of public speaking, but he had a dream to offer free coding workshops to others. The problem. Every time he stood in front of a group, his hands trembled, his throat closed up, and he'd end up backing out with an excuse. One day after reading a Stoic quote, he made a decision. He started small, just introducing himself during team meetings. Then he showed simple code snippets to a 5-person group. 3 months later, he hosted his first workshop with 12 people. His voice still shook, his palms still sweated. But for the first time, he didn't run. And that was his win. Not because he wasn't scared, but because he moved forward despite the fear. Action creates momentum. Momentum creates movement. And movement is fear's worst enemy. Have you noticed fear is strongest when you freeze, when you hesitate, when you overthink it? For the 7th time. But the moment you take even one small step, your nervous system starts to rewire. This isn't empty philosophy. It's neuroplasticity. The mind can be retrained and repetition is the training. With enough reps, Fear stops being a stop sign and starts becoming a milestone. Afraid of public speaking? Don't start with a stage. Start with a quick intro in your next team meeting. Afraid of rejection? Don't send a dream job application just yet. Ask someone for feedback. Text an old friend. Afraid of being on camera? Record a 30-second video of yourself every morning. No need to post it. That first small action is the neural hook. After that, momentum takes over. Here's the surprising truth. The more you act, the less afraid you become. And the less afraid you become, the more you act. That's not bravery. That's a loop. A self-reinforcing one. And all it takes is a single decision. A leap into the cold water. Not because you're used to it, but because you've stopped letting your mind make the call for you. Now stop reading for a minute. Think of one thing you're afraid of. Not your biggest fear, just something small you tend to avoid. Got it? Now ask yourself, what can I do in the next 5 minutes to move a little closer to it? A message, a sentence, a step. Do it. No analyzing, no delaying. Just do it. Because if you don't, fear will speak up again. And this time it'll say, "See, I was right about you. You don't need more time, you need more exposure, you don't need more courage, you need more momentum." And if you doubt that, just look at the fears you used to have. Ones that don't scare you anymore. You didn't outthink them. You out-repeated them. If you've read this far, you're already halfway there. That's not just impressive. It's proof you're ready to act differently. Tap that like button to mark the moment. Not for me, for you, for not quitting halfway. And don't stop now. The next parts will help you lock in what you've started and finally flip fear from your master to your apprentice. Keep going. It's all starting to make sense. Number 5. Rewrite the story you tell yourself. Fear isn't just a fleeting feeling. It's the foundation beneath how you see yourself. It's not simply the fear of failure, rejection, or embarrassment. It's the deeper fear that you don't deserve a different life. No one says it out loud, but it shows up every time you hold back, every time you choose safety over risk. Not because you lack the ability, but because deep down you've been living by a script written long ago. I'm not good enough. I don't have the right to dream big. I belong behind the scenes. These lines don't scream in your head, but they quietly steer every decision. And the saddest part, most people never question them. They live as if that script is the truth. Fear isn't just something you feel, it becomes something you identify with. You no longer think I might fail. You believe I am a failure. What begins as a passing thought becomes a belief, then a part of your identity. And once fear becomes identity, you'll protect it because letting it go feels like losing yourself. There's someone named Elijah, a quiet athletic coach who turned down 3 big opportunities in his life, launching his own course, speaking in public, and partnering with an international brand. Each time he had logical reasons it wasn't the right time. He needed to prepare more. He wasn't ready, but no one knew that in his head. A voice from his father echoed, "You never finish anything." Over time, Elijah stopped hearing it as criticism. He took it as truth. He wasn't turning down opportunities. He was just staying in character. Then one day, after a health scare, Elijah wrote down 3 simple lines. "If today were my last, what would I want people to see in me? What would I want to leave behind?" That question cracked through the concrete he'd built around himself. He didn't start with a grand gesture. He started by rewriting a single sentence in his mind. "I'm someone who finishes." That's where practicing Stoicism begins. Not in pep talks to your reflection, but in the intentional repetition of new images and phrases that replace the old script. If your mind is a stage, then who's writing your lines each day? If you don't choose the words, fear will, and it has a whole archive of ruthless, outdated monologues ready to go. So, how do you rewrite the script? First, visualize the exact moments you've been avoiding, but not with the usual disaster playing out. Picture the best possible outcome, not fantasies, not miracles, just a version of you that's real and within reach. You speak up and are heard. You send the email and get a yes. You try something new and realize you didn't die. That's how you rewire your emotional response. Repeated images are more powerful than reasoning. And once that image starts to stick, say it out loud. Keep it short, clear, strong, but make it yours, not something from a book. It should be something you partly believe now and want to believe more. For Elijah, it was I finish things, or even simpler, I move forward. These phrases aren't about feeling better. They're about doing differently. And when you act differently enough times, your brain stops buying into the old story because reality proves it wrong. Pause for a moment. Close your eyes. Instead of imagining the worst, picture what deserves to happen. Then ask yourself, how long have I been living by a script that isn't mine? The answer might shake you, but it's also the moment you finally wake up. Don't stop there. Rewriting the script is only the beginning. Without discipline, without structure, those new stories will get drowned out by old habits. That's why building daily routines and practices isn't just helpful, it's essential, not to change your feelings, to change your fate. Number 6. Build daily discipline and habits. Imagine this. You wake up and the first thing you do is step into an ice-cold shower. Not because you're the type who lives for the challenge, but because you're training your mind. You're telling yourself, I choose discomfort and I still thrive. Sounds crazy maybe, but that's the starting point of a certain kind of freedom. When you're no longer waiting on your feelings to take action, fear hates that. It feeds on hesitation. It grows when you stall, waiting for the perfect moment to feel ready. And the longer you wait, the bigger it gets. But when you take that cold shower at 6 a.m., you're not waiting, you're leading. A day doesn't start with a pleasant email, a chill playlist, or a perfect cup of coffee. It starts with a choice. And if that first choice is to attack, whether it's the cold shower, the tough client call, or finally finishing the task you've been avoiding, you're programming your momentum. Every small win is a brick. Stack enough of them and you build a fortress inside. That fortress is proactivity. A quiet kind of strength but unshakable. Have you noticed fear doesn't hit when you're moving? It hits in the silence. In that pause between thoughts. In the mornings you stay curled up scrolling. In the afternoons you take a short break and never return. But when you're running, sweating, blood pumping, heart pounding, fear has no time to talk. You're in your body, not in your head. And that's where fear is weakest. When you stop playing by its rules, most people try to feel confident by reciting affirmations in the mirror. But the mind doesn't respond to promises. It responds to proof. When you ask questions like, what evidence do I have for this fear? Or, haven't I done harder things before? You're doing something deeply stoic, testing your emotions for logic. It's like shining a flashlight under the bed and realizing the monster was just an old shirt. And from that moment, fear starts to shrink bit by bit. Sounds boring, doesn't it? Making your bed, answering emails, journaling. But every time you follow through on something small, you're sending a clear message to your brain. I can trust myself. Trust that no matter what today brings, you'll face it. You'll write. You'll call. You'll act. Brad Isaac once said, Jerry Seinfeld gave him one tip for becoming a better comedian. Write every day and put a red X on the calendar. Don't break the chain. Boring maybe, but that's how real courage is built. Not in grand shining moments, but in the quiet, uneventful days when you just keep showing up. At this point, you might be thinking, okay, I get it. But is this really enough to kill fear? The answer is no. There's no knockout punch. Fear doesn't die like an enemy defeated in battle. It fades one action, one choice, one habit at a time. Every time you write, today I feared this, I did that, here's what happened. You're taking back a little of its power. You're turning fear into data, and data doesn't paralyze you. It makes you smarter. Now, pause. Think about your tomorrow. What are 3 small things you've been avoiding? Are you willing to commit to them? Not because you feel inspired, but because you understand this. The real cost of fear isn't action, it's inaction. Eventually, you'll notice you've changed, not because fear disappeared, but because you stopped needing it. You do the thing even if your hands shake or your heart races, and you won't need anyone to clap for you because you'll know you're steering your life. But if you're still wondering what's the point of all this, the answer lies in what comes next. Because without action, without discipline, without courage, the cost isn't fear. It's the legacy you never leave behind because you chose comfort instead. Number 7. Your legacy and the cost of excessive safety. Have you ever looked into the eyes of someone nearing the end of their life? Not eyes filled with fear of death, but with regret. Regret for the things they never dared to do. The versions of themselves they never allowed to live. The artists they kept hidden. The trip they kept postponing. The letter they never sent. The path they were too afraid to take. All those unlived selves gather like quiet ghosts around the hospital bed, whispering two haunting words. What if? We often think fear keeps us from doing big, bold things. But it doesn't stop there. Fear keeps us from doing the small things, too. Speaking honestly, apologizing, trying something new. Fear never shouts. It whispers cleverly. It disguises itself as not the right time. I'm not ready. Just wait a little longer. And just like that, a lifetime slips by. Not in tragedy, but in quiet delay. That's the real cost of playing. It's safe. Stoicism isn't about suppressing emotions, it's about choosing action in spite of them. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "It is not death that a man should fear, but he should fear never beginning to live." The issue isn't feeling afraid. The issue is letting fear dictate your life. The real tragedy isn't failure. It's never knowing what you were capable of because you never gave yourself the chance. Imagine every choice you make today is a brick in the foundation of something called your personal legacy. Every time you act despite fear, you build another layer. No one remembers the person who always played it safe. But the world watches those who move forward in fear. They're the ones who change the game, spark inspiration, and leave a mark that echoes long after they're gone. No one will remember how many followers you had, but they'll remember how you made them want to become better versions of themselves. There's a line in the Bible that hits hard. To one who knows the right thing to do and does not do it. To him, it is sin. Not acting when you know what's right isn't just a loss. It's a betrayal. Not to others, but to the unused potential inside you. You weren't born to repeat a safe routine. You were born to make an impact no matter how small. And that doesn't happen if you keep waiting to stop being afraid before you start. So how do you change it? Simple. The next time fear shows up, don't run. Take one small step. Send the email. Share the idea. Make the call. Do it while afraid. Don't wait to feel ready. Let your action be a refusal to let fear steer your life, and every action becomes a new line in the story only. You can write. Now pause for a few seconds. Close your eyes. Think of one thing you've been putting off out of fear. Something small. Something within reach. Then ask yourself, if I did that today, how could it change my life a year from now? This isn't a prompt. This is real. This is how you start, taking your power back. Because if you don't write the story of your life, fear will do it for you. If you're ready to stop letting fear define your legacy, comment, "Build my legacy to mark the beginning of a story worth telling." Number 8, steps to take action now. How many times have you told yourself just a little longer, maybe next week, or I'll start when I feel more ready? Be honest. You've probably said it more than once, but here's the truth. There's no such thing as the right moment. There's no perfect day when you wake up feeling unstoppable with the wind at your back and not a cloud in sight. Fear doesn't wait for you to feel ready before it disappears. It vanishes only when you take action, even if your hands are shaking. Even if doubt still lingers, confidence is not the prerequisite, action is. The Stoics knew this better than anyone. You have a choice in front of you, clear, unpolished, and real. You can keep living in fear, rationalized as caution, or you can choose freedom, even if that means acting while still afraid. So if you're serious about killing fear, not just silencing it temporarily, then don't wait. Start now with these 5 small practical steps. They may be simple, but they're powerful enough to break procrastination at its root. Step 1. Name your fear clearly. Don't say vague things like, "I'm afraid of failing," or "I fear rejection." Be precise. "I'm afraid to send that collaboration email because I might get a no." Clarity is the first spark of power. The moment you name your fear accurately, you reclaim a piece of the power it stole from you. Step 2. Face the fear strategically. You don't have to dive into the fire. Exposure can be gradual and controlled like cold training. No one throws you into ice on day 1. Start by writing the email without sending it, then read it out, loud. Then show it to a trusted friend. The more you expose yourself, the more your nervous system learns. This threat is just a trick of the mind. Step 3. Create a simple morning ritual. Don't let your emotions choose the direction of your day. A daily affirmation like "I take action even when I'm afraid" repeated each morning can rewire your instincts. Then do something small that feels like a win. Make your bed, jog for 5 minutes, tidy your desk. Small victories build momentum. Momentum builds belief. Step 4. Move your body. Fear lives in tense muscles and shallow breaths. Movement isn't just for fitness. It's proof that you're still in control. Walk briskly for 15 minutes. Do 10 push-ups. Jump rope for a minute. Anything that reminds you, I'm still in charge of my body. That's how the Stoics trained themselves, through motion, not just meditation. Step 5. Reflect each night. Not to complain, but to track progress. Write one line. What did I do today that made me proud? Even if it's tiny. This builds evidence against the lies fear keeps whispering. You don't have to write much. Just be honest. Writing it down is your declaration. I'm building my legacy one act at a time. And if these steps seem too small, remember this. It's the small things repeated consistently that change lives, not grand gestures. Daily commitment. Fear doesn't vanish because you're brave once. It fades because you stop letting it stop you again and again and again. Courage is a habit, so stop scrolling through another self-help book. Don't click play on one more motivational video. Close all your tabs, stand up, take a breath, and begin. You don't need to be fearless. You just need to start. Now, we've just explored 8 powerful ways to break through fear. Not with empty slogans, but with clarity, discipline, and deliberate action. You've seen that fear isn't the enemy. It's a test. It doesn't need to be crushed with brute force. It needs to be met with awareness and intention. We learn to recognize its false voice to stop blindly obeying it. We understand that courage isn't a feeling, it's a choice. And freedom doesn't come from avoiding risk, but from facing ourselves one step at a time. Especially those limits we once believed were unbreakable. As you begin to put this into practice, rewriting your inner script, building a morning ritual, moving your body, facing fear step by step, you're no longer fear's victim. You're becoming the author of your own story. No one else can live your life for you. No one else can erase your fear. But you can. And you begin right now. If this video touched something in you, if it helped you see an old limit in a new way, hit that like button if you haven't already. It's the simplest way to help spread meaningful ideas. Share in the comments, what's the biggest fear you're facing right now, and what are you ready to do about it starting today? If someone in your life needs to hear this, send them the video. One message at the right moment can change someone's path. And don't forget to subscribe, we're just getting started. More real, deep, and inspiring content is on the way. In the end, it's not about avoiding fear, but mastering it. When we harness the wisdom of Stoicism, we rise above fear's illusion and gain a compass for life itself. Let this be the beginning of your fearless journey.